Okay, guys, we're going to look at some basic equations to just kind of refresh your memory. I know you've probably had all of this at some point in some high school math courses, but we just need to make sure that we remember how this works, okay? The solving the equations. So here we have 4x plus 9 equals 29. And you know the thing we end up wanting is x equals whatever our amount is going to be. So the thing we need to do is get this x on a side by itself. So if you remember how you do that, you start by doing the opposite. Since it's adding 9, you subtract 9 to remove it from that side of the equation. But if you subtract 9 over here, you have to subtract 9 over here. So then you end up with 4x equals 20. And again, you're going to do sort of the opposite mathematical operation to get rid of a number on one side. So over here, you still need to get rid of the 4 that's multiplied by the x. Since it's multiplied by the x, you're going to divide it. If you divide it here, you got to divide it here. And what is that going to give you? That's going to give you x equals 5. And this is a pretty basic one, but I'll show you how to plug it back in, and that way if you have a more complicated problem, you'll know how to go back and check yourself. So if you substitute the 5 for the x, you have 4 times 5 plus 9 equals 29. So you have 20 plus 9 equals 29. So you have 29 equals 29. So that you see that you did that correctly. Okay, now parentheses, we have to remember what we do with those. How you get rid of parentheses, because y is your variable here. So what you need eventually is y equals something. You multiply this number by each factor inside the parentheses, because what this expression says is 5 times y minus 2. So you multiply the 5 by both. So it's 5y minus 10 equals 40. So now you have your parentheses cleared up. But you need to get rid of this 10. So since it's subtracted here, you're going to add it to both sides. Because if you add it to one side, you have to add it to both sides. That's true every time. So now you have 5y equals 50. So again, you're going to have to divide. That's the opposite of the multiplication. And you end up with y equals 10. And again, you can go back and plug it in for y in your equation. And see, you do your parentheses first. 10 minus 2 is 8 times 5 does in fact equal, you end up with 40 equals 40. Okay, now we're going to come to this one, and don't get confused by the way it's set up, because you have profit of $850, revenue of $3,200. That's how much money you took in. This is how much money you actually made, and it's minus this cost, what you spent trying to make money, okay? That's very important, because when you're making money in business, it's not just revenue. You've got to subtract out that cost to get to your profit, okay? So what you're going to do here is just move this part over, all of this. So you're going to end up with 3,200 minus 850 equals the cost of your product. Because if 850 was your profit and you brought in $3,200, the number missing there is how much you spent making the $850. And if you subtract that number out, you get $2,350. And the way you check that is to just go back and say, does 3,200 minus 2,350 equal 850? And if you go to your calculator and do that problem, you see that it does. And so that's how you solve that. You just move this whole thing over here. Okay, one more. We've got business application on break even. Revenue equals cost. So we need to know how many units, which is represented by Q, must be sold to break even. And we know we are given that 25Q equals 600 plus 10Q. Okay, but now this is going to be a little more confusing, because we need Q on one side, right? we know what we need is Q equals. So it's really the same. Don't let it confuse you. Just because there's a variable attached doesn't mean you can't still do this, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to subtract 10Q from both sides. So we end up with 15Q equals 600. And just like everything else, we divide. That's going to multiply, so we undo it by dividing. We divide over here, and we have Q equals, I'm sorry, y'all, my calculator shuts off every time I put it down. 600 divided by 15 equals 40. So we think our answer is Q equals 40. Let's go back and plug it in and see. So I'm going to find the spot right in here. So we have 25 times 40 plus equals 600 plus 10 times 40. So if you do 25 times 40, you get 1,000. If you do 10 times 40, you're going to get 400 plus 600 equals 1,000. So you see that your Q equals 40 is correct. Okay, guys, that's just a quick sort of overview, help you remember how to do some of these equations. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a holler.